get it, don't mindset.
For the first time in our 12-week season, the 2022 Season 1 of the iRacing IndyCar Open Championship heads out of the United States. We've landed in the Ardennes Mountains and one of the best tracks in global motorsport. 7 kilometers of pure driving joy. It is Spa-Francorchamps, and it's time for round 3 of our 2022 Season 1 in the IndyCar iRacing Open Championship. Delighted to have your company here on the award-winning RaceSpotTV, wherever you are around the world. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon. Happy to have your company here live for another Monday night of action, the final time in 2021, where my name is Arjuna Kankipati. Delighted to be joined alongside by my Powerslide Motorsports teammate, Andrew Kinsella. And Andrew, we've seen 2 incredible rounds of action so far, and now we return to the road courses for what is going to be one of the most popular venues for this championship across the 12 weeks. Spa-Francorchamps is legendary in our community and indeed in global motorsports as well. And the interesting thing here is tires, because it's a high-speed, high-intensity track that is known for burning the rubber off of the cars. Managing that over the course of 30-plus laps is going to be vital.
Arjuna, this is a track that I have had circled on my schedule since it came out. Spa-Francorchamps, just a legendary track. So many epic races have gone on here, but today it is the IndyCar Series coming virtually to Spa-Francorchamps, and as you mentioned, tires are going to be critical. Those long straightaways are going to burn through those tires, and it's going to be very, very interesting to see who is going to do what with the tire strategies and exactly how that's going to factor into this race.
And hashtag right off the bat, blame Lorenzo. Right before we went live, he was telling me it was 30-plus laps. I thought he was wrong. I was right. It is 21 laps of action, 1 pit stop across of the next 45 minutes or so of racing, all leading up to our first race in January in 2022. We'll be heading to Iowa for what is bound to be an exciting race there. The championship then is looking interesting. Brandon Traynor had the lead coming out of Road America, but technical issues for Traynor in last week's race has meant that he's dropped outside of the top 10. Instead, it's new recruit to Powerslide Motorsports, Robert Malechka, that's currently in the championship lead. Alexander Van der Zaten has had a good start to his championship campaign as well, but because it's the holidays, Andrew, this is the race where we're going to see new faces. And crucially for Brandon Traynor, he will be here today. He knows that already one of the drop weeks that will count to this season has been taken away with him with that technical dropout last week. He needs a result here in one of the strongest fields we've had in road racing in the last 12 months.
4,200 strength of field here today, Arjuna. It's a field packed with strong drivers, and drivers we don't necessarily see on Monday nights because, just as you said, the holidays are wreaking havoc with some schedules, but it's permitting some other drivers who don't necessarily or can't necessarily make it out on these Monday nights to come out and drive here. I'm looking at the likes of Hugo Olsen and Justin Hess for Powerslide Motorsports. We also have the likes of David Porcelli, who we don't see very often. Christian Macarelli sometimes comes out, sometimes doesn't. There are a number of drivers who are new, at least to the Monday night split of these races, and it's going to be fascinating to see how they mix in with the normal drivers that we see here out on Monday nights.
And of course, some fighting for points in the championship, some just here for bragging rights. It's 7 kilometers of absolute joy. Up and down, it is a Belgian roller coaster. The most elevation change in Formula One schedules over the last couple of years. From the lowest point to the highest point on the track, it is 100 meters in length. Across the start-finish line through La Source, you plunge down the hill into the fearsome Eau Rouge and Radion, then work your way uphill because the Kemmel Straight is a very slight uphill before you start plunging your way down to the lowest point of the track, just below Pouhon, before building yourself up into in the final sector and in through the very high speed and very tricky in some ways, Blanchimont. It is a difficult track, Andrew, and one that is going to require, we mentioned it earlier, tire management. With a 21-lap race, the fuel window is anywhere between 11 and 12 laps, one stop. I think we're going to see drivers try and start on the red mark alternate tire, slightly softer, slightly faster at the beginning of the stint, but give it 3 laps or so, it's already dropped off the pace. Trying to get into the pit lane as early as they can to get onto the primary tire for the majority of this race.
Yeah, it's going to be really interesting to see how the drivers address this, because it is possible that they get off those red mark tires as early as possible, as you mentioned, but get off too early and you can find yourself in a world of trouble. We've already seen Adam Blocker has not necessarily done the best job fuel saving in the first race of this year, so it wouldn't surprise me that some drivers here, especially the likes of Brandon Treno, who doesn't have some of his direct competition for the championship, maybe going a little bit conservative as well, doing 2 black stints that are longer, maybe more equal, start with lower fuel and maintain that lower fuel level throughout the race. So there'll be, I think, a lot of varying strategy here today, and it should be very, very interesting to watch.
We got our first look at the track here in the Ardennes Mountains. Of course, wasn't much racing when Formula One came here earlier in 2021, and a venue that's got so much Formula One heritage. The likes of Jim Clark have made this their stomping grounds. Michael Schumacher debuted here 12 months later, took his first Formula One career victory. One of the great moments in global motorsports was Schumacher versus Mika Hakkinen up through the Kemmel Straight. Ricardo Zonta was the odd man out, lap traffic. Mika Hakkinen saw an opportunity, took it 3 wide down the inside into the column chicane and got his way up into the race lead back in 2000. But 20 years later, it is still fearsome, it is still challenging, albeit going through some changes recently, Andrew. We know just how treacherous this track has been in global motorsports. Of course, the tragic death of Antoine Hubert a couple of years ago. Recently, we saw Lando Norris having a huge issue of his own up through Eau Rouge and Radion. It's going to be interesting how the character of this venue changes with those modifications to the track.
Absolutely. It's one of those tracks where there have been changes throughout the year, obviously. We have what used to be a real bus stop chicane is now no longer a bus stop chicane, more of just a standard left-right chicane now. And as you mentioned, that Eau Rouge Radion complex, it'll be interesting to see if that goes through a similar change in the name of safety. Hopefully it keeps that character, though, and I think that the people at the Belgian circuit, they've done a really good job of maintaining that character and making all these changes with that character in mind. So I'm confident that if there is any changes to come in the future, that it'll be done well.
Gravel being added to the circuit, more for the addition of motorcycle racing to come here. But for now, let's focus on the job at hand, the race at hand. 21 laps here in Belgium. It's time to take a look at our starting grid for round 3 in our 2022 Season 1 of the iRacing IndyCar Open Championship. Brandon Treno puts it on pole position once more. wasn't feeling confident about his pace on the road courses, but what a job from him. A 54.798, almost half a second clear of Philip Kraus, who returns to a Monday night. Not much practice to the Wisconsin native, but he'll be one trying to challenge the pace of the king of the bricks. Justin Hess alongside David Porcelli on row number 2, while Mitchell Welker and Hugo Olsen, first time on a Monday night for both of these drivers in a long time. They'll line up alongside one another, 5th and 6th positions. Will line, Flynn Lazier 7th and 8th, with Doriano Ricciuti and Adam Crane completing the top 10. Dan Piezza and Andrew Wood 11th and 12th positions. Rashad Craig, Andrew Marquez 13th and 14th, 2 seconds back from the pole position time, while Lorenzo Bonder, Christian Maccarelli, Fabio Ciambella, the final car setting qualifying lap times, 3 seconds separating 1st through 17th, with Christian Steele. No lap time for him, he'll line up back in 18th position all the way at the tail end of this field. So that's what's in store for us, but I hope you're ready for 21 laps of what is sure to be excitement personified here in the Ardennes Mountain, where chaos can ensue. And Andrew, I cannot wait to see what's in store for these drivers, because this is a race that I think a lot of them have been waiting for. It is one track where we expect the participation to come up, and you mentioned the strength of field earlier. One of the strongest races we've had in recent memory.
It is going to be a great race. I can almost guarantee it. This track and this car just go together so well. The long straights really allow the car to stretch its legs. Power to pass will come into play, and as you mentioned, power to defend as well. I think that we're going to see some really close action throughout this field. There are a number of different battles that I'm going to be watching throughout the day, particularly the likes of Flynn Lazier, Will Lyon, and Hugo Olsen. That area should be really interesting to watch. And of course, Brandon Treno on pole once again, showing that he's learned how to do road courses just as well as his ovals now.
And I think the crucial thing in the early stages will be this tire strategy, because lots of cars qualified on the black primary tires, but Brandon Treno picks up the throttle. We are racing for round 3 of your iRacing Open Championship. Treno storms down in towards turn number 1. 2 cars already off the track. Phil Kraus, Mitchell Welker, Rashad Craig gets mixed up with Andrew Wood through La Source. Absolute chaos, running themselves down the hill in towards Eau Rouge for the very first time. Little bit of chaos, a little bit of carnage, but Brandon Treno leads the way.
Not the cleanest getaway, but we have a really strong start from Brandon Treno. But look at the draft that we have coming through there. Slow down from Brandon Treno.
That's why he's dropping. He cut the course a little too aggressively at the top of the hill. He's now back behind Hugo Olsen, so that 6th position for the King of the Bricks. Justin Hess will take the race lead. Now about half a second clear of David Porcelli. Very chaotic start, not what we expected. I think Brandon Treno is still trying to serve that slowdown penalty.
Such a costly error from Brandon Treno, and he's got to be very, very careful that he does actually get this thing cleared, because you only have a limited amount of time before it becomes a full stop-and-go penalty, and that would be disastrous for Brandon Treno. But it's been a terrible start for the front row, really. Phil Kraus went really wide at turn 1, completely missed the braking point, had to actually go into the grass to miss Brandon Treno. And we have just seen, I guess, a little bit of chaos here, and it looks like Justin Hess has really come out on the good end of things here. Hess driving for Powerslide Motorsports. He hasn't actually driven this car in a while, as you can attest, but he's been lured back by these new tires that have been put onto this car, and he's showing some really strong pace here at the front right now.
Adam Crane on the right-hand side putting the pressure on Brandon Treno, who's already on the push to pass, trying to defend and close the gap in front to Dan Piazza. Looks like Phil Kraus as well, trying to recover. He'll look to the inside of the Canadian through the bus stop chicane for the very first time. Justin Hess leads the way from David Porcelli, Will Lyon, Hugo Olsen, and Ricciuti through the top 5. Phil Kraus, what a move there, but using the grip that we know the Red Mark alternate tire will give you early in the race. It's not going to be long, though, before that grip starts to wear away.
Yeah, and that's what's so crucial for the likes of Brandon Treno and Phil Kraus, is they need to make sure that they get back up towards the front of this field, because they do not have long before those tires will be going away. And they were counting on being able to sort of run away from these black mark tires at the beginning of the stint, and that would have allowed them some time to sort of have the race come back towards them. Not the case anymore because of the mistakes that they made on lap 1.
Mitchell Welker now tries to put Adam Crane back down into 10th position. Another car that's on those red mark alternate tires, left-hand side of the screen. You can take a look at the tire that each of these cars has started on. Only one car in the top 6 on the alternate tire. Traino, Kraus, and Welker will start to feel the pain very, very shortly. We'll get some replays in a couple of moments' time as to all of the chaos on lap number 1. Flynn Lazier, the first casualty of the race so far. He's retired and returned to pit lane, so one car out, 17 still circulating here in Spa-Francorchamps. And it is a relatively cool day, given what we sometimes see here in iRacing. 23 degrees in the air itself, 26 down on the track. So not going to wear as aggressively are the tires, but aggressive immediately. Brandon Traino dispatches Dan Piazza through that chicane. Kraus tries to make a look as well, almost runs into the back of the number 18 car.
That was so close there, Arjuna. Phil Kraus nearly made a mistake, but he was just barely able to stay off the back of him. But this has put him a little bit on the back foot coming down this long back straight here, and he's back into the clutches of Mitchell Welker just a little bit as well. So really tough stuff, and it's so easy to happen where if you make a small mistake, you can find yourself under attack from the car right behind you. Really nice defensive action there from Piazza into the chicane, and Phil Kraus has got to be chopping at the bit to get by and maybe get some clean air on those tires while he still has some grip left.
We ride on board with Welker in towards turn 1. Hugo Olsen, fastest lap of the race in 3rd position, a 56.952. Bit of a lock of the brakes through turn 1, build the momentum down the hill, and on the button is Mitchell Welker. So is Phil Kraus. Justin Hess trying to use that 60 horsepower advantage to build the gap, but look at the run that Phil Kraus has managed to get through Eau Rouge, through Radion, and now building on the back of Piazza, who was late on the button but moves to the inside to try and defend 7th position, side by side down the Camel Straight into the braking zone of Lecombe. Kraus around the outside, going to be a bold move to hold it through Malmedy, but Piazza's got around with that one. Welker checks up just in time, Crane has to check up as well, and more absolute chaos. Remember, it's still lap 3 of this race.
Just pure chaos, and that was Welker, that was Piazza just trying to defend through that corner. It looked like Phil Kraus tried to go in down the outside, try to use the outside and the red tires and the more grip, but it was one of those things where it was just a little bit too little give and take between those two drivers, and they just came together. But it's just been chaos these first few laps. But meanwhile, it's been a quiet first few laps for Justin Hess. He was getting a little bit of pressure from Dave Porcelli, but he has opened up the gap, and it is looking like we can finally go to some replays here, Arjuna.
Yeah, it's somewhat calmed down. You can see Kraus, I think, snapped a little bit early in the braking zone, and that really compromised him hard. We'll also look on board with Mitchell Welker, what happened in his own run in the number 11 car, deep under the brakes, and he almost runs into the back of Justin Hess. Very close call there. Then what happened to Brandon Traino on the button, running himself down the hill through the endurance start-finish line. They don't start where F1 would start the race. Instead, they start after turn number 1. Watch here. All 4 tires inside of the white line, and instantly releases the throttle. Brandon Traino, slow down penalty to be served. The other issue that we saw, though, in through turn number 1 happened with Andrew Wood. What happened here in the team talent number 14? He's got some carnage in front of him. Rashad Craig looks to the inside. That was quite optimistic, if we're being honest with that one. And unfortunately, Andrew Wood, the big loser there, Andrew Marquez, had to also take avoiding action in that one.
Yeah, a little bit of bad luck for both of the Andrews there. Marquez just had nowhere to go, and the runoff on the outside there is really, really small, and it narrows down a fair bit coming out of that corner. So just some unfortunate incidents, and that can really... It's really easy for that to happen here, Arjuna, especially in turn 1, because it is such a tight turn 1 where you're coming from a wide straightaway, and it's so inviting to chuck it down the inside because it seems like there's a lot of room, but it's a really, really tight corner, and it was just, I think, misjudged there from Rashad Craig, if I'm being honest.
So a couple of battles going on for now. Welker seems to have managed to work his way past on Phil Kraus. We also have a battle going on between Brandon Traino and Doriano Ricciuti, which you can see on the right-hand side of your screen. Traino looks very confident, half a second clear in qualifying, and recovers back up into 5th position. Still 4 seconds adrift from the race lead, but he is closing and closing fast on those red tires, not far away from entering into the pit stop window. If you're Brandon Traino, who is slowly but surely burning through his push-to-pass, there's already 5 of the 10 allotments that he's got used. Andrew, what do you do in this situation?
I think that the only thing that Brandon Traino can do at this point is push as hard as he possibly can. He's going to have to take a stop really early in this run, no matter what. So all he can do is wring these tires for everything that they're worth for as long as he can. But as soon as the tires start going away, and they will go away very quickly here, he's got to be looking to see how quickly he can get on a pit road and get onto the black tires and get off of these red tires, because I think that it was a good strategy call for him if he was starting from the front, but as soon as he dropped back into the field, he is at a distinct disadvantage with these red tires now.
And so we see these wonderful shots brought to us by Dougie Beard. Some great camera angles around this 7-kilometer track. A really interesting proposition, building camera packs at some of these venues where there is so much elevation change. Got a great view of that in the introduction of today's broadcast, where coming through Pouhon, you can see all the way to La Source. At one point of the track, through to the other side of the track, all elevation changes being brought to you as well. Will Lyon now has also, I think, been passed by Hugo Olsen, who has worked himself up into 2nd position. I think David Porcelli had a bit of a moment of his own, maybe a slowdown penalty, because he's now 1.3 off the back of 3rd position on track. Hugo Olsen chasing down his teammate, and about 9/10 of a second is that gap. For someone who's coming back to this car after a long time, Andrew, what are the challenges that Justin Hess is going to be facing here today?
I think the number one test is that he probably hasn't really got the long run experience that a driver like Hugo Olsen or Brandon Traino or any of the regulars really have. I think that it's a car that you can pick up and you can master the early run pace fairly easily and fairly well. But the way that these tires fall off is very unique to this car. I think it's a very realistic fall off, but it's something that you need to spend time on and master. And that's going to be something that Justin Hess really has to deal with.
And dealing with more drama is Brandon Traino, who is down in 13th position, and the recovery drive takes another step backwards, is now under pressure from fellow i5G driver Christian Steele. What happened to the king of the bricks this time around? Lap 1, it was all his responsibility. A little bit too aggressive cutting the course, and we know those slowdown penalties are ultra impactful. On lap number 1, this time coming through Stavolo 2, close call to almost get T-boned from that car behind, but clearly not a stable car through that very fast right-hand sweeper.
Yeah, so one of the things with the setup that you have here is that you really try to put on as much front downforce as you possibly can onto the car to get the car to turn as well as it can through all of those sweepers down through that middle sector. But that corner in particular, it really upsets the car and really puts a lot of load on the front and sort of allows it to just spin around like we saw Brandon Traino did if you have just a little bit too much here. Now we're looking at a replay here of Flynn Lazier from lap 1. This is what put him out of the race. Just a little bit of argy-bargy going through the chicane there, and unfortunately Lazier into the wall, and his hopes and dreams are done for today.
That was the 6 of Will Lyon that slight contact was made with. I don't think any intention there from either driver. Lazier trying to squeeze on Will Lyon to get the position on lap number 1. Lyon having none of it, but he was as close to the inside of the curb as you feasibly can go without unsettling the balance of the car. It ends in tears for Flynn Lazier. Will Lyon still up there in the top 3, has some work to do though to try and displace the Powerslide Motorsports duo that currently leads the way. Looking rearwards now from Justin Hess on the button, trying to build the advantage to Hugo Olsen, but that's coming down with the draft as well. Different downforce levels might be coming into play here as well, Andrew, because we know from within the Powerslide Motorsports camp there was varying thoughts and understandings of which direction drivers wanted to go.
Absolutely, and those downforce levels that you mentioned, they're going to have a major impact on tire wear as well, because the more downforce that you put into the car, the slower that you go on these very, very long straightaways, but the less force you put through the tires in the corners and the less work that the car and chassis has to do, because the aero grip is doing more of the work for you. So it's going to be interesting to see how those aero differences play out, not only with straight line speed, but also how they work with the tires and how the tires fall off over the course of the stint. But right now, the other thing that I'm noticing from Justin Hess is that he's been using push to pass a fair bit already early on in this race, whereas Hugo Olsen, he's been saving his push to pass. So that might be a little bit of a veteran move there on the part of Hugo Olsen, just knowing that he needs to keep those push to passes for the end to maybe make that move on the final lap of the race.
Phil Krause holds off the challenge from Mitchell Welker, at least for the time being. Remember, both of those cars are on that red mark alternate tires. We're 6 laps in the books. Phil Krause locks up the inside front down the hill. That's going to cost him a little bit more in terms of tire wear, but we're already seeing that the pace of these red mark tires is very much starting to burn off. Adam Crane in the popcorn seat looks to the inside to try and get a run down in through the double gauche Pouon, as it was historically called, but he's unable to get the move, at least for the time being. Plenty of action throughout the 7 kilometers here. Crane will try and do the outside move. Brandon Traynor has made this work on the red tires. Adam Crane this time around bumps his way past Mitchell Welker, who gets into the gravel, gets into the wall, and that will be day done for Mitchell Welker.
That was a little bit uncalled for from Adam Crane there. I think he could have been a lot more patient than that. That contact did not really need to happen, in my opinion. Crane had the move done on the outside. He just needed to complete it without getting into Welker. But Welker on those red tires, he really had nothing that he could do there, and they just came together, and day done for Welker. But not necessarily a big fan of that move from Adam Crane.
I can tell you, by the way, that Dariano Ricciuti has just made a bold, impressive pass around the outside of David Porcelli, coming in through Blanchimont. That is not a place for the tame of heart to try and make something happen, but what a move from Ricciuti. At least for now, though, we'll focus on the battle for the race lead, because coming over the crest of the hill at Raidillon, here comes the run from the Swede Hugo Olsen, the 2020 Open Wheels 500-mile race winner, using the push to pass to try and clear his teammate Justin Hess side by side. What is rule number 1 of racing? Do not hit your teammate. Justin Hess concedes for now.
Really nice move from Hugo Olsen there. Hess did not make it easy, but really nice clean battling from the 2 teammates. And I think now you're going to see Hugo Olsen is probably going to go away just a little bit from Hess, because he just has that little bit more experience than Hess does on these older tires. And I think that's really going to play a big factor as this run starts to really come to maturity here.
And a reminder as well of the drivers and the tires that they are on. You start on the tire that you qualified with. You do get a fresh set, but it is the compound that you qualified with. Only Porcelli and Krause inside of the top 10 qualified on the red mark alternate tires. A big shift from what we've seen historically here in the iRacing IndyCar Open Championship. Hugo Olsen now half a second clear, builds the momentum, gets the run out of the corner, looking comfortable in that car. And this is what we love about Monday nights, is when someone like Olsen, who's racing from Europe, it's late at night, early in the morning, depending on which way you want to look at it. It's great to see him come and join us once more, because this is an international community, Andrew. Yes, it's American open wheel racing, but it's an international community that we have here on the iRacing service.
Absolutely. Drivers enjoy the IndyCar around the world, and it really shows in races like this where we have such an international flavor here tonight. And you look at the likes of David Porcelli, Ricciuti, Fabio Ciamballa, Christian Marcelli. There are so many drivers from all over the world racing here today, and it's a treat to watch all of them. As we see our first pitter, it looks like Philip Krause is on pit lane, Arjuna.
Yep, so red tires off. He'll go on to the black mark primary tires. Not necessarily unexpected, given how significant the degradation is on those primary tires. He'll stay in his box, rolls himself back out onto track, and after that turn 1, lap 1 drama, Krause tries to recover. He's followed into pit lane by his teammate Andrew Wood. Hugo Olsen continues to lead the way, but he is down to just 3 usages of the push-to-pass left in this race. And we know that drivers do like to somewhat be aggressive, but managing that, rationing that over the course of 21 laps is going to be vital, because we say it so many times, Andrew. It's not just push to pass, it is push to defend as well. And when Will Lyon is sitting there in 9th position, he is very much here to play the spoil sport in the mix for Powerslide Motorsports. He's got 9 usages of that 60 horsepower spurt left, with plenty of this race still to go.
Yeah, third position for Will Lyon there, Arjuna. But yes, you are correct. He is in the catbird seat right now, but what he doesn't want to see is what's happening right now. Hugo Olsen is starting to go away just a little bit from Justin Hess. He's just making that gap go corner by corner, maybe half a tenth a corner, and it's just stretching out and stretching out. So what Will Lyon has to assess here is whether he really can afford to get by Justin Hess and look to try and get to Hugo Olsen, or, oh, sorry, there was a big crash with Rashad Craig, Arjuna.
And you know what? It involves the beautiful Lorenzo Bonda car, and I'm only biased because it's got my face all over the side of it, but that might be the last time that we see this car in today's race. I believe Brandon Traynor may have got mixed up in this one as well, as Lorenzo Bonda does have to take the tow back to pit lane. Let's see if we can pick up what happened to him. And oh! Well, you said it was big. That is about as big as you can get. That was a sickening, sickening impact for Traynor, for Bonda, for Rashad Craig as well. And what happens here? There's a car going slowly, and Brandon Traynor, trying to go aggressive, causes almighty chaos.
Yeah, 3 wide through there just does not work, Arjuna. It will never work, and I'm not sure that Traynor really made the best decision here. Yeah, there's no other way to look at it. Traynor, he just forced something that wasn't there. Tried to force it 3 wide when I don't think anyone was expecting him to do that, and takes out all three cars, Rashad Craig, Lorenzo Bonda, who is doing nothing wrong. Neither Rashad Craig nor Lorenzo were doing really anything wrong there, and just I think bad judgment there from Brandon Traynor.
It happens. Frustration boiling over. Not one bad race now, but 2 in a row for Brandon Traynor. And that championship charge that he had been hoping to build might just be falling by the wayside. Back to live pictures, we will jump and see if we can pick up any other battles going out on track. Steele did a good job, Christian Steele, to go into rocket machine mode and get through a small and closing hole. He's on the back now of Fabio Ciamballa. That will be the battle for 7th position. We started with 18 cars, and I was kind of joking, Andrew, that attrition was going to play a factor here. I kind of thought it would be from self-inflicted mistakes. We're down to just 12 cars still on the lead lap, 13 cars still running.
Yeah, and I'm afraid that they've been mostly self-inflicted mistakes here today. It hasn't been very much self-spins. It's been more of the errors in judgment so far. There's been a few that have just been cars coming together with unfortunate racing incidents, but there have been a few lapses in judgment here, which is disappointing to see, but at the same time, it's created sort of a topsy-turvy field here. You look at the likes of Christian Steele in 8th. He's normally much closer to the front. Adam Crane in 5th. He's been aggressive and is looking towards getting up in the field, and Phil Kraus way down in 10th place, but of course he's already made his 1 pit stop for the day, so it'll be interesting to see where Kraus comes up when all of the pit cycles complete here.
This is a great race, and I love these. I don't want to call this a wild card, because to say Spa is a wild card, Andrew, is probably not fair to its popularity on iRacing, but it's not somewhere that you traditionally associate IndyCar going to race at. But it is a fascinating track, plenty of challenges as well, not just with the tires, but unlike Road America, where I think somewhat unfairly I've called it 90-degree corners, but each of those 90-degree corners is very slightly different. Here, no corner is the same, both in profile, both in camber, and even in the elevation change that we see. It's 7 kilometers of sometimes just hanging on for dear life. Absolutely, and as you say, no 2 corners here are alike. It's every sector, every part of this track is different, and it's a different challenge and a unique challenge. And the other thing that creates, beyond just good racing from a driver's perspective, but it also forces the setup builders to compromise in their setup choices. And there are a number of different ways that happens. So what you're seeing here, I think, is also a lot of varying setups here. Oh, Will Lyon into the pit lane here. I do not hate this call either. I think potentially get the undercut here, because we are seeing these black tires are starting to wear off. The pace drop-off has been anywhere from 6 tenths to a full second. So for Will Lyon, an aggressive strategy call, and he's followed down into pit lane by a whole heap of cars. Doriano Ricciuti Adam Crane, Christian Maccarelli, Fabio Ciambale. It leaves only 3 cars have not made their final one and only stop of this race. Hugo Olsen, Justin Hess, and Christian Steele. 9.3 seconds stationary for Will Lyon, but now the pressure is on for Hugo Olsen, for Justin Hess. They cannot afford to make a mistake on this crucial lap.
Very important lap here from Hugo Olsen and Justin Hess, but also a very, very important lap for Will Lyon as well. The one thing about the black tires is they do take a little bit of time to get back up to temperature. So if there is a little bit of a buffer for the likes of Olsen and Hess, it is that Will Lyon is going to have to figure out a way to get those black tires up to speed as quickly as he can here in order to avoid losing time on this undercut. It can work, it can be done, but it's going to be very tight for Will Lyon to do it.
And I think the heat issues, the struggles are going to be exacerbated by the relatively cool track temperatures that we have here today. Olsen's already been wibble-wobbling and sliding his way around some of these slower corners on the track. We'll see just how it's going to play out, because as he works his way, building in speed, climbing up the hill in towards Blanchimont, Will Lyon is starting to work his way out of Pouhon and in towards that second chicane on the lap itself, the right-left sweeper at Piff Paff. Through Blanchimont, it's another thing to note, it's not an easy pit entry here, Andrew.
No, it's not, and it's really not easy to take at as basically to attack it as hard as you can. You really want to be pushing 10 tenths, but that wall there is so close to the edge of the track, it's so easy to get into it. Hugo Olsen and Justin Hess both get in very nicely here. Hess, you'll notice he did lose a little bit of time on that final lap, so it'll be interesting to see whether Will Lyon is at least able to leapfrog one of the Power Slide Motorsports duo here.
So on to pit lane, Hugo Olsen up on the jacks as Will Lyon out of the final corner and across the start-finish line. Olsen is rolling, but already with the temperature built up in his tires, with the momentum on his side, Will Lyon will emerge in second place alongside with Justin Hess, but he'll nose in front and now has plenty of push-to-pass usages to try and make the move happen. Justin Hess uses one of his final 3 usages in this race. He's trying to close the gap. Trying to play the team game as well here, but for Hugo Olsen, he is sitting in the Katberg seat. It is not going to be easy, but how much is Will Lyon going to feel the pressure from Justin Hess? Both drivers on the black mark tire, and not enough temperature, at least for the time being, for the Georgian to make the move.
Yeah, unfortunately for Justin Hess, he just spun the tires coming out of pit lane. You mentioned that what were the things that would potentially be a pitfall for Justin Hess? Well, having those pit stops, that's something that you can only do in the race, really, and you don't really practice those pit stops. And you, if we go back on the pit lane, you would have seen that Justin Hess spun the tires, and it cost him a good half a second to maybe even a second, and that is the difference between Justin Hess and Will Lyon, as Justin Hess runs really, really wide there.
And you have to be careful. There's a bump coming back through that curve that can launch you into the air. Justin Hess just about gets away with that one, but it is a 1.9 second advantage that Hugo Olsen has. He's just about out of drafting range, but knowing that Will Lyon has the push-to-pass advantage here, what can Hugo do, Andrew? He can't use those push-to-passes to try and build up the advantage, because then he would be left exposed if Lyon does manage to close the gap. Now it's just got to be about being smooth, being consistent, and hoping that his pace is faster than Will Lyon.
Absolutely. Hugo, the only thing that he can do right now is run his own race. He's got just a big enough gap. Will and Justin were sort of battling just enough to allow Hugo to get that sort of 2-second mark, and really at that point, the draft starts to go away just a little bit. So if Hugo Olsen can maintain the pace that he's running right now, he should really be in a good spot. But he, like you say, has to hope that Will Lyon is not going to be attacking too hard just yet, and that he doesn't have any sort of pace advantage. As we see, Justin Hess is actually on the attack right now, looking to take the position back.
He's not going to have much to defend with. He will get second place away from Will Lyon, but only 1 usage of that extra horsepower at his disposal. Here comes the momentum, though, from the 17. Doriano Ricciuti has been patient. 13 positions gained for Ricciuti. He's got 4th position. Porcelli thought about a move to the inside at the top of the hill in through the Lecombe chicane. He's just a little bit too far behind. And for now, Ricciuti holds on. Should be noted as well, one driver has elected to go to the red marked tire. He's here for some fun, and Christian Steele in 8th position has the opportunity to potentially launch his way into 4th, but he's not got many laps to do so.
Yeah, very interesting strategy here from Christian. I think he's taking a bit of a gamble just because he did start at the back of this field, and he's looking for a way by. I was actually watching last lap. He did a brilliant outside pass on, I believe it was Christian Marcelli through Les Combes. He did a great outside maneuver and cleanly made that pass, and now he's right on to the back of the car in front. Is that who is that? I can't see it anymore.
I believe he's now trying to close on Phil Kraus.
Yes.
About 2.5 seconds. He's already closed about 1.5, 1.6 seconds in about a lap and a half. So I would not count Christian Steele out of the mix for a top 5 finish, especially if David Porcelli continues to slide backwards into the clutches of Adam Crane, Philip Kraus, and of course, Christian Steele. Through La Source, Justin Hess, fastest lap of the race last time around, but the gap between 1st and 2nd is 2.2 seconds. If Will Lyon wants to take victory here, he's going to have to get past Justin Hess, and he's running out of laps to close the advantage to Hugo Olsen, who is looking very comfortable on the black mark tires.
Yeah, I think what we're seeing from Will Lyon is that he probably has just a little bit more downforce than the power slide duo in front of him. It looks like, especially with how Justin Hess was attacking him on the straights, that Hess had less downforce because he was able to make the move well before the corner on Will Lyon. So the one thing about that is Will Lyon should be faster in the long run here. So it might be the case that Will Lyon is just simply waiting and allowing Justin Hess to burn off his tires, burn through those push-to-passes, and he's going to pounce in the last 4 or 5 laps of this stint here, Arjuna.
And that goes back to what I was saying earlier, right, Andrew, with those downforce configurations. We even heard the conversation in Powerslide about drivers thinking 32 rear wing, 36 rear wing, maybe 40 rear wing, but I think that wasn't necessarily on the cards. And that's balancing performance in clean air, straight line ability, which will help you also get the moves done, versus comfort and fuel mileage at the same time. There's a lot of factors that go into making setups at a track like this.
Absolutely. There's so many different variables on this car that the drivers and engineers can customize, and it really does allow a lot of customization for driving style as well. So you might see that some drivers, even within the same team, will elect to run different setups simply because they drive the car differently, and that's really one of the things at a track like this that can come into play is if you're harder or better on the tires just by natural driving style as well, that can affect what you're able to run in terms of setup options.
And so many people within the community do help to build the setup, so there's plenty of options if you're looking for setups, so many different shops that you can go and help find some tools and crucially find some telemetry, because I think that's the thing that a lot of people don't appreciate with those tools, that they can not just help you get comfortable with the cars, they can help you go fast as well. Will Lyon look to the inside, coming into Les Combes, just a little bit too far behind, at least for the time being. He'll have to be patient for one more lap as they come in through Malmedy. Right side of the screen, you can see the battle for 5th. Christian Steele has started to drop off very slightly, so the gamble to move on to the Reds might not have worked in the way that he would have wanted. But Adam Crane, Philip Kraus have lined themselves up behind David Porcelli, who's only about 7/10 off the back of Doriano Ricciuti. At one point, Ricciuti looked like he might be able to get clear of the draft of Porcelli, but the addition of the draft that Porcelli will be enjoying will make it that much more difficult for Adam Crane to get the move done.
Yeah, when you get into a train, you get sort of a draft multiplier effect. So where you think the draft should be really towing you up behind the car the car in front of you, because the car in front of you also has draft, you don't get that same thing. But Adam Crane with a very ambitious move there, looks to make it stick on the outside. David Porcelli just fights back, and no go for Adam Crane there, but he's still looking for the inside there.
Almost set up the opportunity for Phil Kraus to have a gander to get the move done. All that did, though, was let that draft and that gap build up between Ricciuti and Porcelli. 1.6 the advantage for the 17 car as they sweep their way up the hill in towards Blanchimont. basically flat in these cars. That does not mean it is not scary and challenging in its own regard. Steer as little as you can, minimize the scrub on the tires if you can possibly do that, and make sure you don't lock up on the entry in towards the bus stop chicane. 3 cars separated by half a second across the start-finish line. Lap 17 underway right now, and Adam Crane thinking more defensive than offensive heading into La Source.
Yeah, you mentioned how even though it's flat out, it's still not challenging. One of the things about driving, especially at this level, with this kind of competition, is your driving is all about your details. So as you mentioned, even though they might be going flat out through a set of corners, it's all about those fine details and finding that extra half a tenth, even half a hundredth of a second, as we see Adam Crane on the push to pass, or no, not even on the push to pass. It looks like he's going to get this done on David Porcelli in a Lake Home here. And
Phil Krause tags the rear of Porcelli. I think a bit of a sack-up effect there. I do think Adam Crane was on the push to pass, but I think what happened potentially is that the amount of time you're on the button all the way out of La Source, up the hill, through the Camel Straight, means that the push to pass expires midway down the Camel Straight. Unfortunately for David Porcelli, ends in tears for him. He will drop to the tail end of the top 10. Let's go ahead, dial up the RaceSpotTV replay and watch what happens here, Andrew.
Yeah, David Porcelli on the outside here, and just he gets on the brakes, tries to do the over-under, I think, a little bit on Adam Crane, and I just don't think that Phil Krause really properly anticipated where Porcelli was getting on the brakes there, and gets into the back of Porcelli, and there's just nothing that Porcelli could have done differently there, to be quite honest. I think there was just a little bit of a misjudgment here from Phil Krause.
Third time's the charm. We'll get a better look at this one here. I think potentially as well locked it up very slightly and had to get off the brakes to release that tire from skidding through the gravel, and through the asphalt, I should say. And unfortunately for David Porcelli, he is the one that loses out in that situation. Back to live pictures and back to the battle for second position. Hugo Olsen has waved goodbye to Will Lyon and Justin Hess, but Will Lyon has managed to get the advantage for second place. And remember, Justin Hess, one usage of the push to pass left. If you're wondering what the colors mean on the left-hand side of the screen, that's the pace calculator. Red means they're going slower than their average lap. Green means they're going faster. Don't confuse that with the green of the push to pass. Tower lit up like a Christmas tree this time around. Justin Hess not on the button, just using the draft, doesn't get the move done. And if you're Justin Hess here, Andrew, you have to be patient. You have to wait for your opportunity to use that push to pass on the final lap of this race, as side by side, Crane and Krause resume their hostilities.
Adam Crane, Phil Krause. Krause on the outside here, looks to get the move done on Adam Crane. Crane hanging tough side by side. Very close, but it looks like they get through clean, and Philip Krause makes the move. Going back to what you were saying about Justin Hess, I just wanted to go back to that for a second, because Will Lyon was, as you mentioned, on the push to pass throughout that entire straightaway, and he and Justin Hess basically went into Lake Home side by side, so that proves just how much less downforce the Power Slide car has compared to the car of Will Lyon. So he basically had to use a push to pass to keep Justin Hess behind him. But at the same time, that less downforce, that means that Justin Hess is in trouble as he tries to stay with Will Lyon through that middle sector of this track.
And he's struggling. He's now about 6/10 off the back as Will Lyon has used another 60 horsepower spurt to pull up that advantage up the hill in towards the bus stop chicane. Hugo Olsen is 3 seconds clear. He's got to keep it calm, got to keep it clean. Race victory will be heading to Sweden if things hold as they are. Looks like Dan Piazza has been the latest victim of our race here today. 18 drivers took to the green. Looks like only 12 will reach the checkered flag. Oh, what a fascinating race it's been as well. And it speaks to the way that the schedule is built here in this IndyCar series, Andrew. It's a rotation system. There are 8 tracks locked in over the course of a calendar year. So, for example, Indianapolis gets visited twice a year. A couple of the street courses as well get visited twice a year. Then you get the 4 wild cards that come in every season. 2 ovals split across short and the intermediate/speedway ovals, and then 2 road tracks. It's great when they're international road tracks, and even if it's a track like Spa, which is somewhat overused at times in certain other sports car series. When it comes to a series like this, what fun we've had here today, and that fun's going to continue across the entire week because this is the first of the official races here in a new week on iRacing. It's the holidays, people are ready to race and have some fun, and I have no doubt if our viewers are looking to get in on the fun, they'll have plenty of competition over the holiday week.
Absolutely. I think that this week is going to be a fantastic week for IndyCar here on iRacing. If you've ever been curious about this car, this is the week to give it a try. You're going to have different tire compounds, you're going to have different strategies, and you're going to have different setups, and you're going to learn a lot about the car and how to set it up at a track like this. So this is really a good opportunity to get involved with this car.
On board with Justin Hess out of Stavolo 2, now called Curva Pro Frere. Of course, this is where that huge moment with Brandon Treno, Rashad Craig, and Lorenzo Bonder happened earlier in this race. Hess is still just holding on to the draft, and I think that's the right way to put it, Andrew, because as Will Lyon is now down to 4 usages of the push-to-pass left in this race, Justin Hess doing a great job to keep himself in contention of snatching second place away.
Yes, but that draft is really all that's keeping Hess involved, I think, right now, Arjuna. He does have that substantial downforce advantage that is allowing him to use the draft, but every time we get to that middle sector, Sector 2, we just see the pace of Hess drop off a cliff compared to Will Lyon. Hess using the last push to pass here. Will Lyon also on his push to pass. I don't know whether this will be enough from the power slide driver to get back up to Will Lyon here, but he's got one last shot here, and he is using it right now.
I think that's a bit aggressive, but I think speaks to the fact that Will Lyon is doing a sterling job to try and hold off. Hess not even alongside, about 2 car lengths back. That looks like the battle for second is done for today's race. 2 laps to go, and once again, the tower is lit up like a Christmas tree because up and down through the field, drivers using the push to pass to try and make something happen. David Porcelli, another driver on a recovery drive. He's up now past Christian Maccarelli. Gets 8th position away. Maccarelli looked to the inside, just a little bit too far behind. Christian Steele on those red marked tires here, Andrew, is going to come under fire.
Absolutely, but they've only got 2 laps to do it, so if Porcelli is going to make this recovery drive and maximize this recovery drive, that was very close from Christian Maccarelli there on the back of David Porcelli. Porcelli just got in a little bit deep there, and that was a close moment there. But yeah, Christian Steele, he's got to be able to hang on for just 1.5 more laps now. But that's such a tall order because these red tires, when they go, they just go off a cliff, and it is going to be very difficult for him to hang on. It'll be interesting to see what happens on this last lap.
Put that number 9 car into Steely rocket machine mode. Coming though through the bus stop chicane for the penultimate time. It's 2.6 seconds the gap between Hugo Olsen, Will Lyon for first and second. The Swede takes the white flag as Will Lyon goes defensive on Justin Hess. The battle for second might not be totally over, given that we know the downforce that Hess is running will allow him to build the momentum, build the speed all the way down the hill, and even though Will Lyon is on the push pass, will it be enough to defend from the Georgian right behind? Final time through Eau Rouge, up the crest of Radion as well. Here comes the momentum, potentially the move.
A small mistake from Will Lyon, and that might be all it takes, but it looks like the push to pass will be enough. Will Lyon changing lanes just to try to break the draft a little bit more, and Hess is not close enough into Lake Holm, and I think that's going to be it for Will Lyon as long as he's able to make it through the lap with no mistakes. But this battle right here with Christian Steele, David Porcelli, and Christian Maccarelli is far from over.
And I think Christian Steele is going to get swarmed here. Already looks slow and sideways over the crest at Radion. He is on the push to pass, but has already conceded 7th place to David Porcelli. Should be able to hold on potentially to 8th position, but the gamble to get onto the red mark alternate tire did not pay off for Christian Steele. He's still got half a lap to try and survive as through Malmedy.
Yeah, I don't know if he's going to be able to hold on, Arjuna, because the one thing about David Porcelli passing him is now he also doesn't have as much downforce because he's got the dirty air of the car in front. So not only does he have he has less mechanical grip, but he also has less aero grip. So I think that this might be a big ask for Christian Steele to be able to hold on here.
We'll wait and see, and we'll go side by side as well. Hugo Olsen climbs the hill for the final time today. He bided his time, was patient until the opportunity presented itself in the pit stop window, and from there, Hugo Olsen did not look back. Adam Block is not around, it doesn't matter. Hugo Olsen wins here in round 3 on the road courses in Spa-Francorchamps. What a drive from the Swede. The battle for 7th continues as David Porcelli clears himself up the road. Will Lyon in 2nd, Justin Hess in 3rd, and now we wait and see if Christian Steele can hold on to 7th spot.
Coming up the backstretch one final time with Christian Steele. Macarelli around the outside. Oh my word! Oh!
One by one, the chips fell, and it ends in tears for Macarelli, for Steele, for Ciambella. Andrew Marquez will take full advantage of that carnage to score 8th position here today. Well, we thought it would be dramatic. I don't think either of us thought it would be that dramatic.
I don't believe what I just saw, Arjuna. So it started out, Macarelli and Steele were going side by side down here. Steele makes a small mistake, gets a little bit loose, allows Macarelli into the draft. Macarelli tries to make the move happen on the outside. Steele is defensive on the inside. And basically what happens is Macarelli just runs out of room. He gets a little bit loose, and then coming back on the re-entry, Macarelli again loses the back end into the back of Steele's car, and unfortunately that's broken the drive shaft of Christian Steele, and he is not able to finish this race.
I think it's fair to say there was a significant amount of air between Macarelli and Christian Steele there. I don't necessarily think that was either of their fault, but ultimately ends in tears to close out an exhilarating 21 laps here. The Belgian roller coaster, nettled in the heart of the Ardennes Mountains, Spa-Francorchamps, really did play host to a fantastic round 3 of our 2022 season 1 of the iRacing IndyCar Open Championship. Here's a look at our race results after those 21 laps, and Hugo Olsen almost 3.5 seconds clear of Will Lyon, who drove a good race, especially given he was up against 2 teammates to get 2nd spot on the podium. Great drive from the 6 car. Justin Hess on his return to not just Monday nights, but to IndyCar racing as well. And iRacing competition here on RaceSpotTV does come home in 3rd after leading in the early stages. Doriano Ricciuti, one of the biggest movers on the day, started back in 17th position, one of the slowest times in qualifying. Who needs to go fast in qualifying? Andrew Kinsella knows all about that. Ricciuti finishes in 4th. Phil Kraus locked up into turn 1 on lap number 1, recovers to 5th position. Great battle for him with Adam Crane. David Porcelli got mixed up at the end of the Camel Straight, drops down to 7th, but great drive from Porcelli as well. Andrew Marquez, the recipient of carnage, to finish in 8th with Christian Macarelli involved in an incident coming in through Blanchimont on the final lap to finish in 9th, and Andrew Wood managing to work his way up the field, using some of that carnage. He finishes this race in 10th. Fabio Ciambella in 11th, or Christian Steele in 12th. Disappointment for both of those drivers. Ciambella loses it by himself. Steele, well, lots of air between him and Christian Macarelli, while Dan Piazza rolled around the track for a number of laps, but he retires 9 laps down. Lorenzo Bonda, Rashad Craig, Brandon Traynor. Huge incident coming over the crest of Stavolo 2, and Brandon Traynor trying to make it 3 wide. Ends in tears for him, Craig and Bonda. Mitchell Welker, also a retiree, while Flynn Lazier didn't even get past lap number 1. Well, Andrew, Spa, what a track it is, and what a race we just saw.
Oh, what a race that was, Arjuna. A clinical drive from Hugo Olsen, and I do believe that will put Hugo Olsen into the lead of the championship so far. Of course, he hasn't been here on Monday nights, but he has been driving on some of the other strength of field nights that the IndyCar does have. So he was 5th coming in. He will now, I believe, leave at least this race with the championship lead. So really strong drive from Hugo Olsen. It really had a little bit of everything. We had some strategy, we had some chaos, we had some mistakes happening on the track, but at the front of the field, I think we can both agree that the strongest driver throughout the course of this race in particular definitely came away with the victory here.
And we are now joined by the driver Hugo Olsen, the 2020 Open Wheels 500-mile race winner, and a winner here now in Spa-Francorchamps. Congratulations, Hugo. Looks like a fascinating race for you guys up front. A lot of strategy, it seemed like. Knowing when to make the passes happen, knowing when to use the push to pass, and the pit strategy is what got you clear. How difficult was it managing the tires? You were one of the drivers that qualified on the Black Box primary tires. Doesn't seem as though we have Hugo Olsen dialed up for an interview. We'll give him one more chance. Hugo, you got a copy? I think that answers the question. We'll let Hugo try and get it sorted out in the next couple of moments' time, but I tell you what, in the meantime, let's see if we can switch gears over to his teammate. Justin Hess returned to IndyCar competition, and a great qualifying lap put him in the top 5 in the grid. Took the lead after carnage on lap number 1, and from there worked his way through a consistent race. How fun was that for you, Justin?
It was pretty nice to be back. I enjoyed the car. The tires were great. Just lovely drive.
And talk to us about the tires. Of course, you're coming back to the car because these tires make it a lot more fun. But this is one of the tracks which really makes it difficult to ensure they last over the course of the 21 laps. Was it always the idea in your mind that you'd qualify on the black mark tire and start on the black mark tire?
Yes, it was, because the reds dropped off quite quickly, and just I couldn't manage the blacks as well as I needed to today.
And talk to us now about being back. How much more are we going to see you? And hopefully it's the start of many podiums here on a Monday night.
I do hope so, and I hope to be back quite regularly.
Well, that was Justin Hess, podium winner on his return to IndyCar and iRacing competition here on RaceSpotTV. And we'll get 2 more interviews, hopefully. Will Lyon is going to join us here in the RaceSpotTV commentary booth. Should also have Hugo Olsen in a couple of moments' time. I do believe we have the race winner standing by. Hugo, you got a copy?
Yeah, hello Arjuna.
Hello, Hugo. Well, interesting race there, and I'll pose the question in a slightly different way to not bore the viewers. Tire management was crucial here. For you, working through those first 10 laps of the race, it didn't look like you wanted to get too aggressive, but it looked as though you had the pace on Justin. How did you manage to balance that need for speed with the desire to make sure you had tires that lasted through the entirety of 12 laps?
Well, to be honest, I was just pushing hard and trying to make the move as quick as possible, but when I knew I couldn't get by, I was just saving a bit of fuel to have a bit quicker pit stop, which I think I gained a lot of time there on Justin, which made me able to break the toe to him. And then I was just trying to manage the gap and try to pull away, but I didn't really manage to do that.
And we do believe that this will put you into the championship lead. Of course, you're in Europe. It makes it difficult to race here past midnight, of course, for you regularly on Mondays. But it's the holidays, so we're delighted to have you here on RaceSpotTV. What's it been like trying to, race on Fridays or in different races across the week when you're not going to get all of the regular IndyCar community, but you get plenty of strong drivers? How does that change your approach to this championship?
Well, to be honest, I'm really just jumping in, doing one race when I have time to do it, and that would be my result for the week. So I guess this is my race for this week, and hopefully I can make one next week. But it's a fun combo, so maybe I'll try some more race this week.
And what are you doing for the holidays, Hugo? You of course, are my teammate, so I saw some of the food you were enjoying. But any interesting things with family? What did you get for Christmas?
Got a new bag and what more? A pasta. I'm not sure what you say in English, but a pasta machine maker.
Well,
so gonna try to do some pasta soon.
Oh, okay, pasta machine, I got you. Well, you now got a win to join that collection here in 2021 in Christmas. Congratulations on the win, Hugo, and hopefully we'll see you in a couple more Mondays over the course of the rest of the season.
Yeah, I hope to be there more.
So that was Hugo Olsen, winner here in round 3 of the 2022 Season 1 iRacing IndyCar Open Championship. And now standing by with RaceSpot's own, and a man who I'm sure on one hand is relieved that he didn't have to drive the entire race, given the amount of moaning he was doing when we talked to him pre-race, but he's also somewhat disappointed that it ended in a 3-wide collision. Lorenzo Bonda, talk to us about your race and about how things ended as well.
Hi Arjuna, hi Andrew. Yeah, I'm a little bit bummed, but it happens. It's racing. Yeah, and I was doing a little bit of complaining. It's interesting. I was talking to trainer later on after we had that crash, and we were having some struggles with the setup because what happened? My gear was a little bit short stack in comparison to some of the other guys, so I couldn't do any overtakes. Basically, I was slated to be like a back marker of sorts, or try to wait for a mistake. That's basically what happened to McCrally, or I think it was Ciambello, when he came out of the corner wrongly at Stavolo. So I tried to find the opportunity and make that overtake. But I think some guys are running no wicker in the rear wing, and it's tricky for me to race against guys. I have wicker in the wing, so that difference aside gives me a lot of disadvantages in high-speed sections. So that alone made me struggle quite a lot with the pace. But then again, it's a me problem than anything else.
It's always your fault, let's be honest, Lorenzo. Talk to us then about IndyCar, because I know you haven't always raced this IndyCar, but it's something that I think you've been doing increasingly over the last year or so in here in 2021. You've won a Brazilian championship as well. What was it like here at Spa, where you talk about your setup difficulties, but the tire difficulties, I think, was something that everyone was dealing with?
Everybody was dealing with. I think those who were running low wing had some troubles. I saw some of the guys like Crane, I think, had some issues. But Corrales and Bella had also some issues. I think Steele had some issues as well. But the setup was actually okay handling the blacks. My mindset was save the blacks the best I can. Find me an opportunity. If I have an opportunity to make a strike, then I did find that opportunity. I just got bucked in at the entry of Pro Fair, but it happens. It's racing. But I like going forward. It's been a car that has been growing on me each and every time. I just don't have the time enough to race more and more. But it's Spa. I like Spa. I don't like the combination way too much because I think this draft fast of sorts kind of adds a little bit of a mystery flavoring to the race. But I think for a broadcasting perspective, it makes this more interesting because you don't know who has the upper hand or not. But then again, it's from what I had in terms of laps, I had fun.
What's the plan then for 2022? Of course, plenty of broadcasting. I mean, it's not long before we go to, you know, our iRacing special events again and get things underway with the Daytona 24. But I know you do plenty of stuff in your native Brazil as well.
Yeah, for leagues here in Brazil, I think I'm going to take a little bit of a break because I just cannot commit right now. But I might do some commentary here on the side. Do commentary for RaceSpot, of course, like you said it. I'm going to do more managing of my team. I've been helping the guys, first and foremost, doing some more international tournaments. So I've been helping them signing up, paying them the inscriptions and everything. So I've been supporting them more on the sidelines than anything else. And some other stuff might be coming in the way. But first and foremost, let me just say the delivery looks great. Congratulations, Arjuna, on your award on the VCO Simi. For those who don't know, that was my Arjuna Appreciation livery.
I like it. I hope this is not the last time that we're going to see it in Season 1.
No, it's not. I might run at least one more road before I go back to my normal livery.
Well, we got plenty of road courses still yet to come. Congratulations, Lorenzo, on a great 2021 for you and indeed all of RaceSpot, and hopefully plenty more exciting things to come in 2022.
Thank you.
So that was the one and only Lorenzo Bonder, and like I said, plenty more road racing to come in 2022. Now, Andrew, because last race of 2021 here, at least on RaceSpotTV for these Indy cars. When we return next year, first up is Iowa, which is going to be incredible. It is one of the greatest tracks across of IndyCar competition, and it's one that I know, we talked about setup difficulties here, that is a different sort of a setup challenge.
Absolutely, and particularly this time around because we did get an update on those short track tires in this last build for iRacing. So from what I've seen so far, it's not chuck the old setups completely out the door, but they will require some adaptation to really get them the most out of these setups for iOS. So it's really going to be some exciting racing. I think there's less grip in the tires, so I think you're going to see a lot more different lines throughout the field and throughout the race. I think the high line is really going to come into play at a certain point in the race, so it's going to be interesting to see, and I think a really good race to watch here in 1 week's time.
And we'll take one more look at the schedule before we say goodbye here. Mid-Ohio coming up after that. Then we go to Homestead, Miami, which I think might be one of the most interesting ovals that we've got this season, if you ask me. Not one that's necessarily known with open wheel racing, at least in recent memory. Then Twin Ring Motegi, not to the Oval, but to the GP instead. Richmond, Watkins Glen, Gateway, Sebring, and Pocono to close things out. Those final 5 venues, I mean, so much IndyCar heritage across the 5 tracks.
Yeah, it's always been a shame to me that IndyCar hasn't done more racing at Homestead, because every time I race it in the sim, it's really been one of the tracks that sticks out to me as this would be a really, really good IndyCar track for the real world to race on, just because you do have that progressive banking that, again, allows for that multi-groove racing and really allows you to find air where you can't at a number of the tracks that are currently on the track. But as you mentioned, especially that final closing section of this season, Richmond, Watkins Glen, Gateway, Sebring, and Pocono, it's going to be a fantastic fight to the finish of this championship.
Well, and at least for 2021, that wraps things up. It's been a true pleasure having your company wherever you are around the world here. Across of 2021, we started 12 months ago with some incredible racing, and to close things off like this with 3 blockbuster races, Road America, Michigan, and now Spa-Francorchamps, it's been a delight. On behalf of the entire team at RaceSpotTV, for our graphics partners at ATVO, for our camera people, Tyler Maxson, Dougie Beard, my name is Arjuna Kankipati. Delighted to be joined by Andrew Kinsella for one final time in 2021. We'll see you next year for plenty more action. Don't forget, you can follow all things RaceSpotTV across the social media. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube, hit that red button and the bell next to it to get notified every single time we go live with the great sim racing series that we get to cover. Plenty more action still to come over the next 5 days before we turn the page to a new year. That's going to wrap things up then from Spa-Francorchamps. We'll be back in 7 days' time. We wish you and your family the best of times, the best of hopes for 2022. We'll see you then. For now, so long and goodbye.